Okay, so why do productivities differ across countries? So obviously, I can't have you do this in your groups, but you can by yourself kind of think of before the pause this video and write down some ideas. Why do I think that productivity differs across countries? Right? Why in the Republic of Congo is GDP per worker so much lower than in other countries? Okay, so what are some possible reasons for this disparity? So, well, in order to understand that, we need to break down what determines our GDP per worker, right? So, what ultimately determines productivity? And I'm going to say that there's really three components to it. There is what we call human capital. And human capital is the knowledge and skills of the workers. And so, what you're doing by going to this university is you are acquiring or increasing your human capital, right? You will graduate with more knowledge and more skills. Okay, so obviously, human capital is important. The other component here that relates to capital is what we call physical capital. So, this is the buildings, machines, equipment, etc. used to produce goods and services. That's physical capital, right? So a cement mixer coming down the road, that is an example of physical capital, right? It's the things that firms buy or produce to make other goods. The third component, which goes a long way towards explaining differences in productivities, is what we refer to as technology. Now, technology doesn't necessarily mean what you think of as technology. So you think of my computer as being technology, or my phone, software, hardware, those types of things as technology. And that would qualify, but we're thinking of something more general. And by technology, what we really mean is the ability to combine capital and labor to produce output. Right? So I'm gonna take my workers, I'm gonna take my capital, and how do I combine them to produce output? And so, what exactly is this? Well, a good example, if you remember your history class as well, is Henry Ford and the assembly line. Right, so that's an example of technology. So Henry Ford didn't change the available capital. The factory space was exactly the same. Didn't change the number of workers, but he was able to produce a lot more cars per worker. Why? Because of a production process, right? The assembly line allowed the same resources to produce more output. That's an example of technology, right? So technology in our terms is really about production processes and other variables that affect my ability to take my resources and produce output. Okay. So what we're going to do with this is then try to understand how we combine those three factors and produce some output. So that'll be up next.